Woman adopts puppy and cries upon realizing what it has on its head. When a woman adopted a tiny, helpless puppy, she thought she was simply giving it a loving home. But as she took a closer look, something on its head caught her eye, leaving her overwhelmed with emotion. She never could have imagined the heartwarming truth behind the little pup's unique feature. Deborah recently adopted a puppy and instantly fell in love with him. To her, he was the most precious little creature, bringing a smile to her face every time she looked at him. But after some time, she noticed something unusual. It was a small detail at first, but enough to raise concern. When she mentioned it to the veterinarian, their curiosity was piqued, and they urged Deborah to bring the puppy in right away. Without hesitation, the worried owner jumped into her car and rushed to the veterinarian's office, her heart racing with concern for her beloved puppy. She was determined to do whatever it took to keep him healthy and happy. As Deborah anxiously waited for the vet to finish the examination, she couldn't shake the fear in her chest. She had named him Scout, and after noticing something unusual in his fur, she could only hope it wasn't anything serious. As the minutes dragged on, Deborah's hope began to fade. Scout had become like family to her, and the mere thought of losing him was unbearable. Fear and worry gripped her heart aching at the possibility that something might be wrong. When the veterinarian finally stepped out of his office, Deborah's breath caught in her throat. One look at his somber expression told her everything. This wasn't good news. Her heart sank, and as she saw the sadness in his eyes, her own filled with tears. The woman begged the veterinarian to tell her it was all a mistake, her voice trembling. The veterinarian gently placed his hand on her shoulder before uttering the words she feared the most. Although his voice was soft, the words felt like a dagger in her heart. Deborah felt her knees give way, and she had to lean against the wall to avoid fainting, feeling like her world was crumbling around her and wishing to Deborah wanted to scream in anguish. She was completely stunned by the veterinarian's revelations. She had never heard of such a thing happening to a puppy before. What was happening to her beloved puppy? Filled with fear and apprehension, Deborah anxiously awaited the veterinarian's diagnosis, hoping and praying that Scout was healthy. Her heart pounded as her mind raced with endless possibilities. She had longed for this moment since childhood, convincing her reluctant parents to finally let her have a puppy. Overjoyed, her happiness shone like sunlight until reality set in. Caring for a pet was a huge responsibility, requiring feeding, walks, love, training, and regular vet visits. One day, while browsing her laptop, she came across an online advertisement for newborn Labrador puppies. She was excited to read the details of the ad. The puppies were ready to be separated from their mother and needed a new home quickly due to their young age. They were being sold at a relatively low price. Deborah could barely believe her luck and was eager to welcome a new companion. However, she could hardly wait to bring the puppy home and give one of them a loving home. Deborah was full of expectations as she clicked the purchase button. When Deborah met the seller, she was instantly drawn to one puppy. His clumsy movements and soulful brown eyes created an instant bond, and she knew she had to take him home. The first few weeks with Scout felt like a dream, despite the challenges of barking, messes, and constant attention. But one day, while playing in the yard, she noticed a tiny pink lump between his eyes. Initially harmless, it slowly grew, filling her with worry. Unsure of what it was, she began researching, unaware that this was just the beginning of an incredible journey with Scout. Therefore, she decided to take Scout to the vet to have him examined. Deborah had read online that if the lump kept growing, it could be a cause for concern, so she wanted to make sure there was no reason to worry. Deborah closely watched the puppy. To her dismay, it kept growing, however, not in the way she had anticipated. Instead of shrinking, the lump kept growing, leaving Deborah horrified. She had never seen anything like it and grew more anxious by the minute. Her stomach churned as she struggled to understand what was happening. Though she had heard of strange growths in animals, witnessing one firsthand was unsettling. Speechless and filled with worry, she knew she had to find answers. Yet, as she looked at Scout, a mix of fear and tenderness filled her heart. Determined to uncover the truth, she resolved to take action immediately. So, she decided to investigate on her own. She searched the internet for any information she could find and eventually found some articles discussing the same symptoms she had seen in Scout. The young woman felt relieved to discover that she was not alone in this experience. Deborah was surprised when the man reacted to the news about one of his puppies with interest instead of concern. Instead of concern, the seller made an unexpected offer to exchange the puppies. Shocked, Deborah hesitated. She had already bonded with Scout, cherishing his playful nature and affectionate cuddles. The thought of giving him up was heartbreaking. The seller framed it as a favor, offering a healthy sister instead, a fluffy, lively pup with bright eyes. But Deborah was unmoved. Without hesitation, she shook her head, her determination unwavering. She had chosen Scout, and nothing would change her mind. She was determined to make him her beloved pet, no matter what condition he was in. She hoped the seller would understand her feelings, but instead, he became very angry. The last thing she wanted was to exchange him just because there might be something wrong with him. Deborah was taken aback by his reaction. However, she was still determined to keep Scout and make sure he was well taken care of. Deborah had already bonded with Scout and refused to give him up. Determined to protect his health, she stood firm. The seller warned she'd regret it, claiming she'd be stuck with a high-maintenance dog for years. His condescending tone infuriated her, and she blocked his number without hesitation. Though she suspected he knew something she didn't, her priority was uncovering the truth. Frustrated by his vague responses, she turned to the veterinarian who had first examined Scout, determined to get real answers. Deborah remembered the relief that washed over her upon seeing the friendly face of the veterinarian and the reassurance of knowing that Scout was in good hands. The dog owner hoped that the veterinarian could help her again, and she was not disappointed. He had a way of calming her, even if only for a short time. Deborah appreciated the respite, however brief it may have been. As the veterinarian's calm and reassuring voice filled the room, Deborah felt the tension in her body begin to ease. She knew Scout was in good hands and trusted the vet to provide the best care. However, her description of Scout's condition left him puzzled, and he hesitated to make any assumptions. Despite the unusual lump, the vet reassured her that as long as Scout was eating, playing, and behaving normally, there was likely no immediate cause for concern. He remained hopeful and confident that the issue would resolve with time, but stayed vigilant in monitoring any changes. Desperate for answers, Deborah was relieved that a skilled professional was finally examining her beloved puppy. Unfortunately, the veterinarian's schedule was so full that she couldn't make a visit to see Scout in person. Deborah had no other choice but to wait and observe her beloved pet's condition, hoping that the lump wouldn't worsen. The veterinarian closely monitored Scout's condition, ready to step in if the lump became an emergency. Determined to keep her puppy safe, Deborah secured a consultation 2 weeks later, though the wait felt endless. She refused to leave Scout's side, dedicating herself to his care, ensuring he was well fed, hydrated, and exercised while showering him with love. As the lump between his eyes grew and elongated, Deborah grew more alarmed. Despite Scout's good health, she knew a vet visit was necessary. Concerned it could be something serious like a tumor or infection, she was relentless in her pursuit of answers, determined to ensure his well-being, no matter the cost. She tried everything to find a solution, even sending pictures of the puppy's head to the vet to illustrate the seriousness of the strange lump that had grown on her new friend's face. Upon seeing the images, the veterinarian's attitude changed drastically. Deborah knew she was on the right track. She was proud of what she had done, and at that moment, she was determined to get to the bottom of the matter. She was willing to do whatever it took to get the answers she needed. It would be a tireless task in her quest for the truth, but her dedication paid off. Now that he had seen the photo, he was even more eager for her to come with Scout before the originally scheduled time. Deborah felt a wave of embarrassment overcome her for not sending a photo the first time. However, she quickly brushed it off, reasoning that it was better late than never. She quickly grabbed Scout's carrier and made sure it was securely fastened with latches and locks, ensuring it was as safe as possible. Deborah then checked the inside of the carrier to make sure it was comfortable and cozy for Scout, adding some of his favorite toys and a blanket for him to snuggle with. At that moment, she was determined to ensure that Scout was as comfortable as possible during the journey and felt relieved knowing he would be safe in his carrier. She was incredibly nervous during the car ride to the vet. Deborah's heart pounded in her chest as she drove, her hands uncontrollably shaking on the wheel. Deborah tried desperately to convince herself that it was nothing serious, but her mind swirled with countless possibilities. A nauseating mix of fear and anxiety twisted in her stomach, making it impossible to focus on anything else. Dread consumed her as she anxiously imagined every possible outcome the vet might reveal. With sweaty palms and shallow breaths, all she wanted was to get to the vet. hear a definitive answer, and finally breathe a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Scout was as happy as ever, blissfully unaware of anything being unusual. His tail wagged nonstop, and his tongue walled from his mouth in pure joy. He had no idea where they were going or that anything might be wrong with him. The strange growth between his eyes didn't faze him in the slightest. He remained carefree, his cheerful spirit untouched. To Scout, life was perfect, and nothing, not even his unique feature, could dampen his happiness. From the moment he was born, Scout was no ordinary puppy. About a month into his life, something remarkable began to happen. An extremely rare birth defect caused an extra tail to grow from his face. Though harmless, this unusual feature made him stand out in a way few had ever seen. But rather than diminishing his charm, the extra tail only added to it. People were captivated by his uniqueness, finding admiration and amazement in his rare condition. His one-of-a-kind appearance served as a beautiful reminder of life's extraordinary surprises, making him even more special and deeply loved. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.